so we could start.
Good evening, sir. Thanks
Good
for
evening.
coming. I'm not seeing
You're
your
welcome.
screen yet.
Oh, okay.
Nice
Okay.
to have you around.
Thank you so much.
I'm
How
not
about
seeing
now?
your screen.
How about now? I
Not
think
yet.
I've shared.
Well, others should
Okay,
confirm.
can somebody check
Mine is not
also?
out yet.
Yeah, we can see
Okay.
Yes,
your
we can see.
screen.
We can see.
Yeah.
We can see the screen.
We
Yeah,
can see your
Ewo.
screen.
Okay, Gracie,
Yeah, we
you may
can
have
see
to
the
work on your
Come,
own. Maybe you
not
log
out.
out and log in.
Okay.
Grace, you may have to log out and log in, or maybe
Okay, sir.
just restart your phone or something.
I think so. Thank you.
Yeah, please do that. Okay. So thank you very much, everyone, for your patience. I appreciate you guys. So we're starting with the last time we looked at this question, we looked at Pony Bank Limited, if I'm not mistaken, and we looked at the engagement partner, the engagement or management letter. So today we'll be running. Let's see if we can cover and finish the past questions for practice management. And our study texts are out. I believe there are nothing out of the blues or nothing strange aside what we talked about. Still the same 16 chapters, just a little updates. So I would suggest you dropped your old study text, because going forward, our lectures will be with the new study text. And we'll be using it to navigate all the lecture sessions, but the past questions remain our sole roadmap for looking at how to tackle the questions. Okay, so we'll continue with where we stop, and I would like to run, but that won't stop me, or that will not stop us from interjecting freely where we have concerns, contributions, observations. Please interject freely, but I'll try to be faster, because I would like us to finish this today, if possible, so that on Saturday we can start chapter 6, which is the audit approach. We need to run fast. We don't have much time again. Okay, so the next question is on an update, the same quality control. That is why anywhere you see updated question, just know we updated it from the old ISQC to the ISQM, or the old ISA 220 to the new ISA 220 revised, something like that. So any question you see updated is the same diet, but we updated it to reflect the current dispensation and the current updates. Okay, so November 2019, updated question on Andy and Associates. The question reads, you are a partner in a large audit firm, Andy and Associates. The firm is a part of a network of audit firms operating in different countries around the world. As part of the quality management practices of the network, a peer review is done every year. During the peer review, partners from other firms in the network visit your firm to review the working papers for selected audit engagements that were carried out during the year. After the peer review, the reviewers compiled the review comments and categorized them into recurrent themes. The recurrent themes identified after the review in the current year include the following. Number 1, no evidence of review of audit working papers by the senior team members. Number 2, review comments were not properly cleared before the signing of the audit report. 3, in some instances, despite evidence of review of working papers, during the audit, the peer review identified deficiencies in the audit documentation, which led the reviewers to question the quality of the review done during the audit. And number 4, in some instances, all audit working papers were not in the file prior to signing of the audit report. At the end of the peer review exercise, a report was prepared and sent to the managing partner of the firm, the head of audit, and the risk management partner. The managing partner of the firm was alarmed at the nature of findings from the review and decided that necessary steps had to be taken to address the deficiencies noted. As part of the initiatives to address the situation, you were asked to facilitate a refresher course for the management team on the requirements of ISQM1, quality management for firms that perform audits, and the responsibilities of the engagement partner under the revised ISA 220. Required. Explain the purpose of a review of audit work. 1 mark. 2, or B, explain the 4 types of audit reviews, 4 marks. And C, discuss the requirement of ISQM1 on the system of quality management that a firm should have that addresses any 5 components. 15 whooping marks. Wow. And we have a total of 20 marks. What a question. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we have an updated question, and it's a modern, forward-looking question that tests our understanding of the evolution of the audit standards from ISQC 1 to the new ISQM 1 and 2. So the study presents, or the case study, is a common or a real-world problem, deficiencies during a peer review, and asks candidates to explain the underlying principles and solutions. So I think a strong answer requires more than just rote memorization. It demands an understanding of the purpose behind the different types of reviews and the components of a robust quality system. So it's an updated question on ISQM1, which highlights the importance of keeping up with recent trends, especially as we're preparing for exams. These recent changes in professional standards I hallmark of actually a good professional accountant, which ICAN is very committed to updating from time to time. Okay, so in looking at that question, or the questions we have, the first area speaks to explaining the purpose of a review of an audit work. And they said explain, but it's just 1 mark. So you mustn't overflog that question for 1 mark. Don't waste your time on a 1 mark question. So in writing, you must understand how to pen your thoughts around the core purpose to ensure the work is done correctly. And that's what to write. Ensuring the core purpose of the work and making sure it's done correctly. And the audit opinion is supported by sufficient appropriate evidence, which is a fundamental control. So writing your thoughts should, you should think around such thoughts. So the core purpose of the work, is to ensure correctness and that the opinion is supported by sufficient appropriate audit evidence. Appropriate evidence is a fundamental control. So how do you write? Keep it concise. A single well-structured sentence for a 1 mark question or a short list of bullet points is sufficient. So focus on the key objectives in writing. Confirming compliance with standards and ensuring the audit opinion is sound. So that should be an objective. So the answer on the screen, it's a bit elaborate, about 4 paragraphs for a 1 mark question. You mustn't go this much for a 1 mark question. So read through, then summarize your thoughts around what the examiner has provided here, which is very clear. Then for the B part, we are asked also to explain the 4 types of audit reviews, and we have 4 marks each for the B part. So in writing, we're required to differentiate between the various types of reviews. So the scenario mentioned a peer review, which is 1 type. We should cover overall engagement file review, talking about the partners review, talk about engagement quality review, EQR, and also monitoring review. Monitoring review is also known as a cold review. And the key is to explain what each type is, who performs it, and when it is performed, before or after the report is signed. So those are key points to note. So read through these reviews and understand how to provide context to what I said. So the key is to explain which type it is, who performs it, and why it is performed. Is it before or after the report is signed? So in writing, use a clear, separate heading for each type of review. Start each explanation by identifying the reviewer and the timing. So for example, an engagement quality review, like we've seen or we are seeing on the screen, is performed before the audit report is signed by a professional who is independent of the engagement team. So this structure ensures you hit all the key differentiators. Very important. So take note of that as you read through the answers and provide context to them. So the C part. Okay, so looking at the C part, in writing, you see that this is the most substantial part of the question because it carries 15 marks. You need to discuss the components of a system of quality control as required by ISQM 1. The question asks for 5 components. You should choose and discuss 5 from the standard 8 components. We have 8 of them, so choose 5 that resonate with you. So the best choices are often the most fundamental ones, like risk assessment, governance and leadership, ethical requirements, and engagement performance. So those are the key ones. So those are the key ones. And how do you write? Allocate a special heading for each of the 5 components you choose. So for each component, provide a detailed explanation of what the firm's system should include. So don't just name the component, explain what it entails in practice. So for instance, for relevant ethical requirements, discuss the need for a system to identify and address threats to independence. Very key. So ethical requirements is important. So you need to discuss the need for a system that identifies and addresses threats to independence. So like for engagement performance, you should mention the importance of policies on supervision, direction, review. This demonstrates you have comprehensive understanding of the subject. So generally, strategies around this kind of question, you need to demonstrate current knowledge by specifying ISQM1 and the revised ISA 220. Show the examiner that your knowledge is up to date. This is a crucial element of a strong answer. Try to link the answers to the scenario. While the questions are theoretical, you can briefly link your discussion back to the study or the case study. For example, when discussing the purpose of reviews, you can mention that the deficiencies noted in the peer review, for example, no evidence of review, highlight the importance of proper review policies, something like that. Then structure your response appropriately. You see that from the solution is a clear model, an excellent model. It uses clear headings, subheadings, separate. So try to separate the different points of the question and present information in easy to read bullet points or numbers or alphabets. However it resonates with you, just present them in a way there will be a logical flow and it will make it easy for the examiner to follow your arguments and award your marks. Please make it easy for your script to be marked and try to go beyond basic definitions. So for part C, simply stating governance and leadership is not enough. You must, if you're choosing governance and leadership, stating this is not enough. You must explain what this component means in practice, like the roles and responsibilities of the managing partner and the need to foster a culture of quality. This shows you have deep understanding. So from the marks, specifically, you must be guided by the marking key. The marks are provided for you to be guided to know how to write. So for part A, the single mark or 1 mark for this part means that a single accurate point is sufficient. And a brief explanation of the purpose of a review is all that is needed. So you don't need long story. And for the B part, with 4 marks for each type, this means 1 mark per type. So to get the mark, you must correctly identify the type and provide a brief, accurate explanation that distinguishes it from the others, especially regarding who performs the review and the timing. So for the C part, it's important to note that the C part has 15 marks for 5 components, and this is huge. So it implies detailed explanation, detailed. Take note. So 33 marks for each, and this detailed explanation is required because it worth 3 marks per component. This level of detail requires you to explain what the component is, number 1, why it is important, number 2, and provide examples of the policies or procedures a firm should have in place to address it. So for example, under relevant ethical requirement, you should mention the identification of threats to independence and the application of safeguards. Very important. So please take note of these nitty-gritties. If you need to go through the video again as you are reading and practicing, please do, so that you can address these questions practically. Listening to them will not really suffice, but as you're doing that, please be practicing by yourself. Make writing and taking notes is key. Very important. Okay, so that will be it. I try to run because of our time, my thoughts. I tried to put a lot of things together, even though I believe you guys caught some of those thoughts. Do you have any questions on that question? I think that will be it for that 20-mark question. Any question? So we can run. Any contribution, observation, so we can move to the next diet. I want us to finish this hopefully today. And currently we are on page 13 and we have 25 pages. So let's say we have 12 more pages to do. All right. That's for the question part. Any question, contribution,
Clear.
observation? Clear. Yes, please. Please go ahead.
Clear, sir. Clear.
Oh, it's clear. Okay, fantastic. Yes, thank you for that feedback, Samuel. Thank you. Okay, so the next question is March, July 2020, and it's updated question 3. And the question speaks to Haggai Partners. All right, the question reads, you're a senior partner at Haggai Partners, a firm of chartered accountants. In your capacity as an engagement quality reviewer, you've been asked to review the audit files of Handel Nigeria Limited with the financial year end June 30th, 2019. However, the audit is nearing completion. Handel Nigeria Limited is a producer of canned tomatoes and peppers, selling its products to wholesalers and supermarkets. From your review of the audit working papers, you have noted that the level of materiality was determined to be 170 million at the planning stage. And this materiality threshold has been used throughout the audit. There is no evidence in the audit file that this threshold has been reviewed during the course of the audit. From your review of the audit planning, you noted that a building was acquired in March 2019 by Handel at a cost of 205 million and was recognized in the draft statement of financial position at a carrying amount of 210 million as at June 30th, 2019. The building is located in Akure and was acquired for the purpose of housing the employees working in the company's factory in Akure. The building has not been physically verified by any member of the audit team. Based on the audit working papers, it was concluded that we've obtained the sales agreement in relation to the building and therefore can conclude that the audit is appropriately valued and that it exists. In addition, the factory manager of the Akure factory has confirmed in writing that the building is located within their premises and it is in good condition. No further work is required in respect of this item. Inventory was recognized as 290 million in the draft statement of financial position. You have reviewed the results of audit procedures performed at the inventory count, where the test counts carried out by the audit team indicated that the count of some items performed by the company staffs was not correctly done, but the team did not consider the discrepancies to be material. The audit senior spoke to you yesterday about his concern regarding the review of the audit working papers. Apparently, the audit manager's review and the partner's review occurred concurrently. The partner only asked the audit senior if there were any residual issues on the audit, scanned through the audit documentation and signed off in the working papers required. Comment on the quality of the audit performed, discussing the quality management deficiencies raised with reference to ISQM 1 and the revised ISA 220. All right, that was a fast read. I needed to be fast. So, ladies and gentlemen, take note of this question because it tests our ability to apply professional judgment and modern auditing standards to this case study. So it's a highly practical question, actually, that requires a deep understanding of professional skepticism, materiality, and the new quality management system, ISQM 1, and the revised ISA 220. So the scenario presents a series of red flags: inadequate reviews, lack of physical verification of a material asset, and a failure to re-evaluate materiality. And that all points to a systemic breakdown in audit quality. This is an advanced question that moves from rote memorization to access actually critical thinking. Very key. So in writing these kind of questions or in answering it, your answer should be structured as a critical commentary on the audit quality. You must identify, then you explain the specific deficiencies found in the working papers and link them directly to the relevant professional standards. So the key areas to focus on are the review process. The review process speaking to the concurrent and superficial review by the partner. Then professional skepticism and evidence, the reliance on inadequate evidence for the building, more importantly, and the dismissal of inventory discrepancies. Then also the materiality, the failure to reevaluate materiality when the building value exceeded the threshold. So how do we write? Adopt a formal professional tone in writing. Use headings like you see. The examiner provided a prototype. So use headings to structure your comments and ensure each section addresses a distinct deficiency. So for each point, state the objective from the case study, explain the implication, like for example, audit risk, lack of sufficient evidence. There are observations you should state and then explicitly reference the relevant standard, ISQM 1, ISA 220, and the likes. So it's important to pick your mark seamlessly for a 20-mark question, and strategies around linking your answers to the standards will help you score high marks because you must explicitly name and reference the correct standard. The question gives you a clear steer towards ISQM 1 and ISA 220 revised. So failing to mention this standard will actually result in a significant loss of marks. So take note of that. Be very specific. Don't just say the audit was bad. Use figures from the case study like the 210 million building and the 170 million materiality threshold. It shows you are linking your thoughts back to the case. And to demonstrate your understanding, please use those figures. Mention the specific procedures that should have been performed, such as physical verification is very important. As auditors and accountants, we know that physical verification, you need to cite. As a matter of fact, when you're signing whatever you write, cited. It's an important part of audit. Also, another strategy, talking about your professional judgment, your answer should not just list facts, but provide a reasonable or a reasoned commentary by explaining why the deficiencies were serious and what the consequences are. It shows the professional judgment expected at an advanced level for the AAA paper. It's very important. So read through the answers. Those are my thoughts, and it will provide a roadmap on how to answer such a question graphically. So go through it, and for the marking keys, a 20-mark question, whooping 20-mark question, and it will likely reward a comprehensive analysis, not just short analysis or so much wordings without content. The 20-mark will reward comprehensive analysis. So marks will be allocated around identifying the key deficiencies. So for example, the poor review, lack of skepticism, materiality, then explaining each detail in each deficiency in detail using facts on the scenario. Also accurately referencing the relevant standards, like I said earlier, ISQM 1 and ISA 220 revised to suffice. Then please demonstrate professional judgment by explaining the implications and the risks with each deficiency. So I think the breakdown is likely to be roughly 1/3 of identifying the issues, and 1/3 of explaining them, and 1/3 for applying them in the standards and drawing professional conclusions. So ensure your answer is well balanced across these 3 areas to maximize your score. So I'll go over that again. The breakdown is, I think it will be roughly around 1/3 for identifying the issues. 1, what is the root cause, the issue? Then you explain the issue, then apply them to the standards and draw professional conclusion. Very key. So ensure your answer is around these thoughts. Balance it well, and you maximize the 20 marks. So please read through the solution to give you a roadmap, then practice with it. Practice with it so that you've gotten the understanding of how it's tested. Then if a question is presented in another way, you understand the concept and how to approach such a question. All right. So those are my brief thoughts on that question, that standard question. Do we have any concerns, observations, comments? Any questions? Okay, I believe it's clear and succinct enough. So let's look at the next question. And it's the same, I think, March, July 2020. So question 4 tested something around chapter 5. And it's also an updated question. And the company is Supply Nigeria Limited. The question reads, you have been approached by Supply Nigeria Limited, a retail company, to provide audit and tax services. In response, you have written to the outgoing auditor to ask if there are any matters which you should be aware of, which might prevent you from accepting the assignment. Despite a number of follow-up telephone calls, you have not been able to obtain a response from the outgoing audit firm. On discussing this with the management team of Supply Nigeria Limited, you are aware that the previous auditor resigned due to a dispute over audit fees for the last audit, which have not been paid. The management of the company also expressed the view that the previous auditors were too materialistic. Wow. All right, so required. Analyze the professional issues noted with regards to accepting the audit. 10 marks. B. Describe the information that International Standards on Quality Management ISQM 1 is required. Or, sorry, I'll take that again. Describe the information that ISQM 1 requires the firm to consider before accepting an audit engagement. 4 marks. C. Describe the matters that ISQM 1 requires the firm to accept before assigning personnel to audits. 6 marks. Okay, so we have a 20-mark question here. Critical issue. Okay, so it's a direct test, I think, of our understanding of professional ethics and quality management, specifically in the context of accepting a new client or new audit client. It combines practical, scenario-based issues like unpaid fees. We've talked about that in the lectures, communication failure, with theoretical knowledge of professional standards, which is ISQM 1. So I think a strong answer requires us to identify the red flags in the scenario and link them back to the specific requirements of professional standards, demonstrating both our ethical awareness and a grasp of the firm's quality management responsibilities. Okay, so let's look at the answer and how we should write or how we should attack such question. So for the A part, you must analyze the professional issues from the case study. Like, all right, thank you so much. Okay, so I was talking about the question.
I can't see your screen yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
think
can
I've
see
shared.
I can see your screen.
Okay. You may need to restart your
screen.
handle, or yes, you may need to restart your handle because I've shared my screen. Okay, so I was talking about how to address the question, the case on Supply Nigeria Limited. So I think I was sharing thoughts around the direct test of our understanding of professional ethics and quality management. So specifically in the context of accepting a new audit client. Like I said earlier, I think I said this question combines practical scenario-based issues like the unpaid fees, communication failure between the outgoing and the incoming auditor, with theoretical knowledge of professional standards, which is the ISQM 1. So I said to provide a good answer, we are required to identify the red flags in the scenario and link them back to the specific requirements of the professional standards. And will show we demonstrate both ethical awareness and a grasp of the firm's quality management responsibilities. So the first part says analyze the professional issues noted with regards to accepting the audit. And we have a 10-mark question, a whooping 10 marks. So in addressing this, what do we write? The part A, we must analyze the professional issues from the case study, including the lack of response from the previous auditor and the dispute over fees. So these issues, they raise concerns about the client's integrity, professional courtesy, and audit risk. So we need to categorize these issues and explain each one as a significant professional concern. That's what we should write. So how do we write? Use a clear point-by-point analysis, like you see the prototype on the screen for the A part. So follow through a clear point-by-point analysis, starting with professional inquiry requirement, then move to client integrity issues highlighted by the unpaid fees and the too materialistic comment. That comment was sarcastic, actually, because it must have been agreed by both of them in an engagement letter. Which one is too materialistic comment? Is a sarcastic comment. So don't put sarcastic in your answer, please. I'm just saying that materialistic comment is uncalled for. So for each point, state the issue and then explain its implication for the firm's risk. Very important. Okay, so for the B part, what are we? The prompt is describe. We are to describe the information that the ISQM1 requires for a firm to consider before accepting an audit engagement. And that's a 4-mark question. So it's a bit lower. And in addressing this B part, it requires us to describe, like I said, describe the specific considerations from ISQM1 for accepting a new engagement. So the firm or the focus is on the firm's own capabilities, its ethical compliance, and the client's integrity. So how do we write? Use bulleted list to clearly outline the required considerations. So each point should be a distinct requirement of ISQM1. And the key is to demonstrate that the firm must assess its own capacity and the client's suitability before saying yes. So read through the answers. The answers provide a clear context on a roadmap on how to address or answer such question. And finally, the last one asks us to describe again the matters that ISQM1 requires the firm to consider before assigning personnel to audit. So this is a 6-mark question. So for this part C, it asks about the criteria for assigning personnel to an audit. Again, this is a core component of ISQM1, specifically under the resources component, human resources. So you should focus on ensuring the team has the necessary competence, number 1, capability, number 2, and experience for the specific engagement. The competence, the capability, and the experience for the specific engagement. So that's what to write. And how do we write? Use the same bulleted list or numbered list the way it resonates with you. It will be good so that your script can be marked and followed through. Yes, please, Grace, go ahead. Your hands are up.
Okay, sir. Please, I want to know, is there any penalty or consequence on an outgoing auditor who refuses to reply the incoming auditor? Like in this case now, we're told that he refused to say anything even after several calls and several efforts of the incoming. Is there any ICAN regulation that will give penalty to any outgoing auditor who refuses to deliberately refuse to give the new auditor any answer on his inquiry, professional inquiry?
Yes.
Either
Yes. So the
theoretically
ICAN.
or okay.
Yes, go ahead. Sorry to interject.
Theoretically
Go
or
ahead.
in practice.
All
I'm done,
right.
sir.
Good question. Okay, good question. Thank you for that. So yes, it's an ICAN requirement for the outgoing auditor to respond. So where he doesn't respond and the incoming auditor reports him to the ICAN body, then it will be by their own discretion because they will first hear from him and other. But of course, in answering you, yes, there are penalties and there are sanctions because it's a requirement. And once you flaunt a requirement, there are consequences for that. So yes, it's not specific or tailored or direct to say this is the amount, this is what you. So it depends on the discretion of the profession to meter out whatever it is as a penalty to that audit firm. Remember, they gave you the license. So withdrawal of license, suspension, fines could be meted out to that depending on the gravity of his refusal to respond. Yeah, so in answer your question succinctly, yes, there are penalties and there are reprimands.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, you're welcome. Okay, so thanks for interjecting. Good question. So as it hits your thought, please freely say it. Don't mind I'll get back to where I was speaking. So I was saying that human resources is a component, and this third part, you need to ensure that the team has the necessary competence, the capability, and the expertise or experience for the specific engagement. So I said use bullet list or go by paragraphs, A, B, C, or just make your answers readable. Follow through. Don't jam pack it. I didn't use bullet list here or stating them, but you can see each points are presented in a logical manner and it's flowing. You're able to read the thoughts and everything around that. Just describe the policies and the procedures related to the personnel assignment. Include points about assessing competence, providing training, ensuring appropriate supervision, and review within the team. So that's how to write this question. So everything is provided here. So please read through it, and it would provide you a guide during your practice. So general strategies, like I've said earlier from questions on DSI SQM, is the same here. Link the case to professional standards. The question explicitly asks about professional issues and ISQM 1. You must name the standard and principles. So for example, professional courtesy in the case, client integrity, name all those things to earn your marks. Try to integrate the case study. Don't treat the scenario and the question separately. Your answers in part A must directly reference the unpaid fees. That unpaid fees is very important. From our lectures, we saw that an unpaid fees is an issue. And also the statement, too materialistic comment, you must address it. So reference it. This shows the examiner that you can apply the theory to a practical question. Then structure your answers. Like I say always, the provided solution uses a clear and logical structure with headings and bullet points, because it culminates in making the answer easy to read. One of the challenges of markers is that your candidate scripts are hard to read. And you can't be giving me a headache for the rubbish you wrote. That's the truth. Some people will say that it may be harsh, but then they won't stress themselves reading. They just mark you anyhow. But please make it easy to read and ensure you address each part of the question completely. Is very important. So specifically, the marking guide is clear. The part A is 10 marks. The high marks here indicates that a detailed analysis is required. So each mark, just know the marking will tell you what to do. So you should aim for several distinct points, with each point having a clear issue and an explanation of its implication. So simply stating unpaid fees are a problem is not enough. You must explain that it indicates a potential lack of client integrity, and it also creates a self-interest threat. So thoughts around those kind of explanations will get you the mark seamlessly. Then for the B part, you see that is a direct recall question, which is 4 marks, and the marks will likely be awarded for each distinct requirement. Aim for at least 4 well-articulated points. And for the 6-mark question, the part C, each point you describe needs to be more than a simple sentence. So provide a brief but comprehensive explanation of what ISQM 1 requires for each aspect of personnel assignment. So for example, competence, supervision, training. You see the solution actually solutions points are an excellent guide for the level of detail required. This is very important. So please take note of them, and as you provide context during your practice, it will help you be properly prepared for this kind of question. Any questions, observations? Any question, observations? Okay, so let's move to the next question. I believe it resonates practically. We'll move to the next question, but this question looks like, okay, somebody's hand is up.
Yes, when they said 5 marks, our bullet point, we are going to base it on 5, or we give more than 5?
Okay, for a 5-mark question.
Yes, sir.
Yes, please. At least minimum 5. If you can give more than 5, then you have a safeguard. But minimum 5 should suffice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, good. Thank you for the question. Then this question I'm seeing on the screen, are you sure we've not addressed it? Looking at Nash, and it looks like a question we've addressed. Does anybody remember this question? Looks like a question we've addressed, or we addressed it in a separate topic. Nash investigations. Okay, let's read through and see how to provide context. We'll not go on break by 9, because we started late, and that was my fault though. So we'll go on break 9:10. We also had a short glitch, so please don't mind me. We'll go on break 9:10. Let's see how to finish this question very fast. All right. November 2020 spoke to Gnasher Investigations Limited. And the question reads, Gnasher Investigations Limited specializes in conducting investigations for corporate clients. It employs ex-police officers, security consultants, IT and fraud specialists. Gnasher Investigations recently dropped its firm of auditors and has approached your firm in a tender process for reviewing the has approached your firm to participate in a tender process for selecting the new auditor. You are a manager in the audit firm and you'll be working with a senior auditor on the assignment. The senior auditor has been involved in a tendering process or appointment of new auditor. You've been provided with the following information. Number one, Gnasher Investigations is a major service provider to your firm, particularly in the provision of IT and fraud consultancy. Number two, Gnasher Investigations has acrimoniously dropped their previous auditors and are withholding fees pending the resolution of a number of issues, especially to their accusations on the competence of the auditors. Number three, Gnasher Investigations is currently facing a hostile takeover from Technical Investigation Group, a company you also audit. Media reports number 4 of a fraud allegation leveled against one of the directors of the company, and number 5, one of the firms in the audit firm is also a director in Gnasher Investigations. Required. Prepare briefing notes to explain the following matters to the audit senior. Number 1, the audit tendering process in terms of the stages that the audit firm will go through should it decide to participate in the tender, 5 marks. B, the requirements of the ICAN Code of Conduct on advertising and publicity, 5 marks. C, the requirements of the ICAN Code of Conduct on fees, 5 marks. D, the impact of each additional piece of information provided above and how the information would influence your decision to participate in the audit tender for Gnasher Investigations, 20 marks. The question looks like we've treated it, but I'm not sure. Well, we'll go ahead and treat it as a question that tests our understanding of key professional and ethical issues in auditing, specifically in the context of accepting a new client and I think the tendering process. It's an applied ethics question where candidates must analyze this scenario with multiple red flags and provide a professional and reasoned response. So since it's tendering, it was not updated. Let's look at the examiner's report. It's not an ISQC question, so it's a normal question on one of the units we looked at, which is tendering, publicity, and advertising. So let's see what the examiner said. Okay. All right. So from the examiner's report highlights a significant, I think, weakness in candidates' knowledge of the ICAN Code of Conduct. Okay, the examiner particularly regarding advertising, publicity, and fees, suggesting that many candidates rely on general ethical principles rather than the specific rules of their professional body. Okay. All right. So the report is clear on what were our pitfalls. So please take note of it as you read through and as you're practicing to answer. Okay, so let's go and speak to this. Let's speak to the question or let's speak to the answer. Let me share some thoughts in this answer. So the A part, the audit tendering process in terms of briefing notes is the prompt. Briefing notes to explain the following matters to the audit senior. All right. So what do we write for the A part, the audit tendering process? We need to, write around the key stages of a tendering process from the auditor's perspective. And it includes the initial consideration of whether to participate, gathering client information, preparing a preliminary plan and fee estimation, and also creating a formal submission document. So that's generally what we should write around the A part. And how do we write? You need to structure your answer as a chronological list of steps. As you can see, the examiner provided a chronological order of a list of steps. So you can see the examiner did that. That makes a lot of sense. Start with the pretender due diligence. The pretender due diligence is the client acceptance. Then you move to the information gathering and planning phase, and also conclude with the preparation and delivery of the tender document. So generally, your thoughts should center around what is the prototype provided to us on the screen. So we have about 6, but then for a 5-mark question, you need to at least provide 5 superior arguments or superior submission on this for the A part. Okay, so for the B part, you need to write what. Okay, so the what, in addressing what to write, the specific rules, you need to understand and write around the specific rules governing how a firm can market its services. Don't forget the B part said the requirements of the ICAN Code of Conduct on advertising and publicity. It's a very sensitive area in most practice, noble professions, medicine, accountancy, law. So there are rules, and we need to focus on the core principles. You are not to bring disrepute to the profession, and no exaggerated or misleading claims, and no disparaging, or you can't disparage other firms. So very important, take note of those. And how do we write? Use your bullet points, use bullet lists, like you can see on the screen, to provide your thoughts. It's important to use the precise language of the code. You must be honest and truthful. You will not discredit the services provided by other firms. So mention the recommendation to avoid fee-based advertising, which is also a good point. So we spoke about that practically in the lectures. So please read through this question. We'll test how you understand advertising and publicity. Okay, so the C part, the requirements of the ICAN Code of Conduct on fees, another 5 marks. So in writing this question or answer, what do we write? The specific rules. You need to write around the specific rules regarding how a firm should handle fees. And it includes transparency with the client, the issue of lowballing, and the firm's right in case of unpaid fees. So lowballing is reducing the price so that you can get the job that is reasonable, that a price below what is reasonable to do the job. That's what lowballing is. So those are what you should write around. And how do we write similarly to that part B? Use the normal bullet list like you see based on the format. Each point should cover a different aspect of the code's guidance on fees, and also discuss the importance of a written agreement, the prohibition against quoting fees that are significantly lower than competitors, which is lowballing, and the professional lien for unpaid fees. What to do in situation of unpaid fees is very important in writing these answers. So please read through the answers. They provide good context to how you should address it. And the last part talks about the impact of each additional piece of information provided above and how the information would influence your decision to participate in the audit tender for Gnasher investigations. So the impact of the 5 additional information are as follows. And in writing these, what do we write? This is the core application part of the question. So for each of the 5 pieces of information, we must, number 1, identify the professional or ethical threat. Number 2, explain why it's a threat. And number 3, conclude on its impact on your decision to participate in the tender. So how are we writing? We need to address each of these points separately. So use a clear structure for each. So for example, Gnasher investigation is a major service provider. So it creates a self-interest threat because this demonstrates both identification and explanation. So your conclusion should be a clear yes or no on participating in the tender with a strong justification for that answer. Take note of that. Then Generally, to answer such a 20-mark question, you should strategize around reading the code of conduct, because the examiner's report is clear. It signals that candidates are not studying the specific rules of the ICAN code. And memorizing the key principles relating to advertising, fees, and client acceptance is essential, very important. Also, another strategy, please apply the ethical framework. For example, the D part. Think in terms of fundamental principles, talking about the integrity we looked at before in professional, in chapter 3, integrity, objectivity, professional competence, and due care. You can align them here, professional behavior, and those traits, self-interest. So you apply the ethical framework to answer this kind of question. Then please be decisive. The question asks you to influence your decision. For most of the red flags in this scenario, the correct professional decision is not to participate in the tender. So be decisive, and your answer should reflect this decision backed by sound reasoning. Very important. So take note of it. And from the marking key, part A and B and C, each is worth 5 marks, with the marking guide allocating 1 mark for each distinct point. So this is a clear signal to provide at least 5 separate, well-articulated points for each, like somebody asked now. So 5 separate, clearly provided points for each section will suffice. So avoid long paragraphs. Bullet points are the most effective way, I think, to present the required information. Yes, please, Grace, go ahead. Yes, please, your hands are up.
Yes, sir. The point you raised in B parts, that
Yes,
point
please.
number, Roman figure 1, I don't understand how it is a threat to the firm's independence. That Gnasher is a major service provider, then how did it result to a threat to the audit firm's independence?
Okay, good question. So the B part, I was talking about Gnasher being the D part, I mean, not the B part, the D part. I was saying Gnasher is a major service provider. Now, if you look at the solution provided, the first part says, since Gnasher is a major service provider to our firm, the issue of a possible threat to our independence arises, and we may not be able to submit a tender for the audit. So Gnasher is a major service provider, and you want to tender for an audit in that same provider. So Gnasher provides like security service for the firm you're working. So if you tender for that audit and get a job, there's a self-interest threat for you not to be able to identify stuffs or key issues in Gnasher's review of their financial statements or whatever it is. Why? Because Gnasher is your, if you look at the case, if you read through the case, you'll see that Gnasher investigation is a major service. That's number 1, as you can see on the screen of the question, is a major service provider to our firm, particularly in provision of IT and fraud consultancy.
Okay.
Yes,
I get
so that's
it.
where the you're welcome. So that's where the challenge is. So it's good. Good thoughts, please bring them on.
Sir, sir.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Could we also say that such a relationship could bring about familiarity traits?
Fantastic one. Self-interest, familiarity, excellent points.
Okay.
Excellent points. Yes. Okay, good questions, good engagement. I appreciate that. Okay, so I was saying, I was talking about the marks. I said the A, B, and C to get context and answer them very well, provide bullet points, which is the most effective way to present the required information very clearly. Then for the D part, it's also what is the D part. Okay, it's also 5 marks. Okay, so with 1 mark for each of the 5 pieces of information, to get that full 5 marks, you must correctly identify the threat, identification, explanation, and state its impact on the decision. So for example, for point 5, for point 5, one of the partners is also a director. The full answer you should provide should include that this is a self-interest threat and a conflict of interest, and the partner will need to resign from the directorship for the firm to accept the tender. So these are prototypes of how you could answer that question. Okay, so good engagement, ladies and gentlemen. It's 9:10. We'll go on a short break. Should we go 5 minutes or 10 minutes?